I think there might be a saying out there, and if it isn't, it should be, that if you make the same mistake twice, it's no longer a mistake. It's no longer, if something is seen as an accident and you commit the same accident again, it's no longer considered an accident. At this point, it's turning into a habit. Well, that definitely applies to this individual by the name of Patrick Baker, who was out of this place called London, Kentucky. I didn't even know a London, Kentucky even existed, who back in 2014 was sentenced for a drug robbery killing. Now, fast forward to 2022, he's about to be sentenced to 42 years in prison for the same exact crime that he got pardoned for back then. What is it Forrest Gump says? Stupid is as stupid does. Let's get into it. A man pardoned by Kentucky former governor for a 2014 drug robbery killing will return to prison to serve a 42-year federal sentence for the same crime. Patrick Baker was convicted of murder committed during a drug trafficking crime last year in a federal trial. He had been out of prison since 2019 when former Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin pardoned him for the slaying of Donald Mills. But media reports that Baker's family had political connections to Bevin and hosted a fundraiser for the former Republican governor put a spotlight on the case. So basically, he was able to buy himself out of a consequence. Federal authorities brought new charges against Baker for the killing in May, and he was convicted in August. At a hearing Tuesday in U.S. District Court in London, Baker, age 43, was sentenced to 42 years in prison, but he was credited for 30 months served on the previous conviction. He was facing a maximum of life in prison. So instead of him really serving 42 years of the sentence that they just gave, he's only doing about 40 or 39 more years, which is still relatively a long time considering his age. He'll be like in his 80s when he gets out, if he's still alive by that time. Baker was convicted of a brazen act of violence, one that resulted in a murder, committed while the victim's family was nearby. Carlton Shear, U.S. Attorney for the Kentucky's Eastern District, said in a news release Tuesday night. Shear said law enforcement and the trial team's faithful efforts were critical to the verdict, conviction, and sentence. Baker was convicted of killing Mills, a drug dealer in Knox County, while trying to rob Mills of cash and pain pills. Baker posed as a U.S. Marshal during the crime. Mills' pregnant wife and children were held at gunpoint while Baker ransacked the home for oxycodone pills. So this guy was just on a drug binge. He was trying to get his fix. Because I say this, anytime somebody wants to rob somebody for some drugs like that and go to these extremes, this person has a drug problem. They're an addict. Like, this guy killed his dealer and held the dealer's child and wife at gunpoint. Attorneys for Baker had asked the judge ahead of the hearing to limit Baker's sentence to a maximum of 19 years, which would have matched the punishment that was wiped away by Bevin's pardon. This guy literally screwed up 20 years and ended up with double, pretty much. U.S. District Judge Claria Horn Boom denied that request. Federal prosecutors said Baker was prosecuted the second time under the dual sovereignty doctrine, which allows state and federal officials to prosecute the same defendant for the same actions without infringing on double jeopardy protections. I can't say I feel bad for this dude. I can't. Like, how in the world do you get pardoned even with your privilege in tow and all your connections and still end up going behind bars for more time than what you were previously going to have? This is a dub P fail. It really is. But it is. I'm starting to notice that in some cases, that dub P, white privilege, is not panning out for a lot of people like it usually would. Some slip through the cracks, and we've talked about them and we'll continue to talk about them on this channel. But some, like this guy, it just didn't work. Even with all his connections and ties that his family has to, with money and resources, they still couldn't buy their way to get their loved one out of the jam that they were in. Like, that's wild. He got to go back to prison to serve a 42-year federal sentence for the same crime in which he thought he was going to walk away from. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments.